Hi, this is Kevin Arthen. I wanted to show you on the resource guide how to pull up the application for Community Connections and how to find, if you need it, the supporting releases of information for medical records. So, if you think someone can meet the criteria for Community Connections, you just want to go on the coordinated resource guide here, abqcrg.org, to the permanent supportive housing link. Again, it's in the menu under permanent supportive housing, or you can go down to the second row of icons, third item there. If you click on that, then it's going to pull up this page here. Very first listing is Community Connections. All of their contact information, their fax number and address for the releases is going to be here. I always pass out all these phone numbers and emails as well, so that when someone's trying to stay in touch, they have plenty of ways to reach somebody on staff. So when you look at the listing in the bottom here, you're going to see four different criteria as possible ways for somebody to be qualified. No one has to meet all four criteria, they just have to meet any one of these things. So just read them carefully. Two or more inpatient hospital admissions, three or more behavioral health related encounters with psychiatric emergency facility or the emergency room in the last 6 months. I have talked to Community Connections, and they did say that they're not really worrying too much about it being specifically behavioral health in the emergency room. So pretty much any emergency room stay is going to be adequate. And then if somebody has one or more admissions in to a behavioral health program at Matt's Detox, but now it's called the Care Campus. Or finally, if they had three or more bookings at the Metropolitan Detention Center in the last 5 years, and they must have also had a placement in the PAC unit. And sometimes I just contact Community Connections directly because some people don't remember accurately, and if somebody's close, you're going to want to make sure that that they, if they did, they were in PAC, that we capture that as one instance. Now, if somebody looks like they can meet these medical criteria, either hospital stays or emergency room stays, then go ahead and fill out the application right then and there, because you can get them locked in on being on the list, and then in the meantime, go get the medical records requested. So you could go ahead and click on this app link. It's gonna pull up the document, which is the application. Sometimes for my computer, it'll, sort of like look like it's hung, but if I just click the download, then I can get the document anyway, just in case you experience that. But it's a really easy application. Put in lots of contact information. I always put three or four. Imagine if their phone goes missing, like friends, family, email addresses, put all that stuff in there. About 70% of the time, people are not able to be reached when their name gets to the top of the list. And then make sure that any additional household members are noted. Um, Anybody that's homeless or precariously housed includes transitional housing, does not include any kind of shared housing that's permanent or anything like that. But street shelter, vehicles at night, somebody that's in any kind of transitional living place, that's okay. And then you're putting in if they can live independently. You're putting in that information if they were at MDC. This is really only asking about MDC, and then whether or not they were in the PAC unit. And then you definitely want to capture, if there were two or more hospital stays in the last 12 months, or the three or more, and it says behavioral health related, but it's sort of any emergency department visits or psychiatric emergency services in the last 6 months. So they're meeting either one of those, not both. And then you go ahead and put, any kind of information about their mental health diagnosis or their history of substance abuse. You can sign it. They don't even have to sign it during COVID times, and then just go ahead and I usually just email it over to the addresses here. Now, if you do need medical records, this medical records link right here, if you click on that, what happens is it pulls up this document, and it's got all the Community Connections contact information, but it's got the three main hospitals: Lovelace, Presbyterian, and UNM. And if you click on this main link for each one of those, it's going to pull them up. So like, there's the UNM release of information. There's the Lovelace release of information. And I apologize. I think this is the Presbyterian, and then this is the Lovelace. And so Lovelace has very site specific, depending on what specific hospital you are at. So you go ahead and fill this out. And a good tip is that you can email these, have someone sign it on their smartphone with Adobe Acrobat Reader. It's a very good tip on speeding this process up. So you fill it out. Here you're going to put that it's going to Community Connections. You're not going to send it back to yourself. You're going to be really efficient about this, and you're requesting that just a discharge summary is going to be going to Bernalillo County Community Connections, and again, that all that information is in the listing. And then just the discharge summary, if it's for hospital records, you're going to go back a year. If it's emergency room visits or psychiatric emergency visits, go back 6 months. Make sure that they initial all these, and then that they sign as well. Note that on the Lovelace releases of information, I'll just pull one up here real quick. It does have a spot here where they need to sign it, and then here at the bottom. And let's see, and then Presbyterian, I think you only have to sign it on the bottom. But just double check, make sure you fill out every little piece on here. Always be indicating that you just want a discharge summary, and always send it to Bernalillo County address. Put address and or fax. Lovelace will email it back to you, but the other two are going to fax it. So just make sure that that fax number on here is used, and get that over to Community Connections. And then as long as you send the application in first, and then get this thing in, and then follow up by making sure and having the person follow up and make sure that the medical records actually did get there and that they were actually meeting the requirements, because they're not actually officially going to be considered if the medical records aren't there. And so unfortunately, quite a few people did get on the list by putting this application in, but didn't follow up and get their medical records in. So make sure that you help them, or you get somebody to help them get those medical records in right away, so you don't forget. And then finally, just have the person follow up by checking in with Community Connections at least once a month, always updating contact information, always having 3 or 4 contacts, especially if their phone goes away. So those are sort of all the best practices and the way that you can get somebody signed up for Community Connections.